I just hit it, Brian. It says recording.
Hello and welcome to the iSOA Group and CA Technologies webinar. Today is being recorded. If any attendees have issues, you may drop from the webinar at this time. I am your moderator, Brian Silverman, and I'm the Sales and Marketing Leader at iSOA Group, a CA business partner. And I want to thank you for your time, and I'm excited that this is the right time to discuss reaching across the clouds with a focus on security and compliance for Microsoft customers. The key word is clouds. As you will hear from our experts, companies are using multiple cloud providers, and assuring security and compliance is not only important, but is legally an industry-wide and urgent requirement. I am joined today by two experts in this area. Derek Orr with CA Technologies as a principal consultant focused on CA API management, and Venkata Chintala, who is a senior solutions architect at iSOA Group. Before we get started, I know many of you have heard of CA Technologies, but you may not have heard of iSOA Group. We are a regional systems integrator and solution provider across North America, providing and optimizing clients' investments in IT from integration to security and API management. With over 20 years experience, we are noted for our trusted advisors, helping clients realize true business value from their IT investment. We are a CA partner available for resale services and work together with the CA team to assure all of our clients' success. Now let's get started with our webinar this afternoon. Our agenda today is going to be, we're going to start out with Derek Orr, who's going to talk to you all about the modern API and multi-cloud architecture. It'll be followed by Venkata Chintala, who will talk about gateway integration scenarios with Microsoft products, and then we will make it available for questions and answers. You can also, there's a chat option in the GoToMeeting window. You can enter any questions there, and we will work as hard as we can to answer all of them at the end of the webinar. Derek, take it away.
Thank you, Brian. And like Brian had stated, I'm Derek Orr, a pre-sales consultant working for CA Technologies. I'll be discussing CA's role within the modern application architecture. Today's conversation will show how we can help with standardizing across the enterprise. When I say across the enterprise, I'm really referring to the growing list of cloud vendors as well as your on-premise environment. First, I will walk through the modern application architecture and how CA solutions are tied to each step of the full life cycle. CA API management has many solutions to help with the full life cycle of your API needs. As well, CA has blended business unit product teams to intertwine solutions to help with the different use cases and customer stories. On this slide, the modern application architecture model is really how CA would characterize its role within the agile enterprise. A modern application architecture model, which is represented by an infinity symbol, sits in the middle between the existing enterprise data and the omni-channel landscape, which could include mobile, cloud, IoT endpoints, which customers, partners, employees would interact with. The infinity symbol is a clear lifecycle model that is required in order to bring enterprise data to life. Starting at the plan phase, moving to create, and then all the way around to the monitoring stage. Plan. This is where you would build out a clear plan, strategy, design, and prototype of what the data will look like to consumers. Create. Building the APIs and microservices that will expose the enterprise data quickly and efficiently. Test. Publish. Testing the new services and deploying them to targeted environments on-premise, in the cloud, or a hybrid approach. Secure. Securing these APIs and the apps that will use them from threats and vulnerabilities. Manage. Orchestrating back-end routes and managing APIs at runtime. Discover. Helping developers discover and onboard APIs as required. develop and consume, enabling developers to develop apps and consume APIs as easily and securely as possible. And finally, the monitor stage, providing insights in the form of monitoring and analytics to both API providers and consumers. There are two additional elements that add additional efficiency and value to the model. On the left-hand side, for the API providers, is the ability to build, manage, and orchestrate microservices, which contributes to the modernization of legacy architecture, which could also mean populating services within specific cloud environments based on the usage of a particular API. Headlessly standing up new, for example, headlessly standing up new services based on the consumption rates. And on the right-hand side, tools that help developers build secure, quality apps that consume the APIs, which also add value to this model. Within the architecture, CA API management has many different solutions that help deliver the full end-to-end lifecycle. Within the create stage, provide the ability to create an API for eventual consumption. CA API management offers two different products, Live API Creator and the CA API Gateway. The CA Live API Creator is a comprehensive platform for API and application development as well as execution, whereas the CA API Gateway can also build out business use cases using its extensive policy language. The CA API Gateway has the ability to transform incoming messages and protocols to meet the needs of the backend services. Test, publish. CA purchased a company called BlazeMeter to help with running scalable, open source based tests against all your apps, from web and mobile to microservices and APIs. Secure. The CA API Gateway is one of the strongest solutions on the API market. It has a vast array of security standards it complies with, as well as the most adaptable and usable language for customer needs. The Gateway is the main workhorse of the CA API suite, translating API between frameworks, routes, traffic control, throttling, prioritization, caching, and of course, enterprise-grade security that integrates with existing IAM solutions. The CA API Gateway is a built-in OAuth toolkit that provides an easy-to-configure OAuth 2.0 and OpenID Connect environment. The Gateway can extend to a client-side SDK, which can help in building out your apps securely. It can also provide you integrations with CA security products, which produced a multi-factor authentication solution for mobile consumption called Rapid App Security, which is a comprehensive authentication platform for both mobile, web, and IoT, which provides fraud prevention in real time, robust authentication methods, faster and convenient means to secure apps, strengthen consumer confidence, and enhances brand value by creating a simplified user experience. Within the Manage and Discover, CA API Portal is a centralized portal that allows enterprises to engage, onboard, educate, and manage internal or external developers. Publish APIs for consumption, where it can provide documentation and code examples, all the while producing full analytics on API usage and performance. And the Develop, the MAG and RAS SDKs. These are provided for mobile development as an easy path to their business logic by providing development kits that have security features already built in, like the CA API Gateways, OAuth, and OpenID endpoints. The consumption or consume. The API Gateway is configured out of the box to provide a high-performing, scalable solution with the ability to meet most, if not all, SLA needs. The gateway provides the ability to work with your favorite CI/CD provisioning tools to help them implement new gateways as the need presents itself. The gateway has many form factors that it supports: hardware, virtual appliance, software, several cloud provider images, and a Docker container. We can also provide a micro gateway that allows you to secure your microservices individually. And now, the last stage, monitor. The last part of the infinity symbol is really the function that allows you to understand the needs of the market and develop the most function for your customers. It's the ability to get feedback on who exactly the users are and what type of clients are using your APIs. There's two products that we have within the API product suite, as well as externally. It's called within the Agile operations as well. It is the Precision API Monitoring, which is used to help trace the API calls from the client to the backend services and allowing you to see each trace point in between. It also provides a lot of functionality to view into the published gateway API itself and take a look at the assertions language underneath the covers so that you can easily troubleshoot issues. Run Scope works by running multiple API monitors globally on a continuous schedule to give your visibility into API problems so that you can prevent, identify, and solve them fast before your customer notices. Slide 6. As you can see on the slide, there are many capabilities within the CAPI management portfolio. I stated some of the abilities of the gateway in the previous slides, but here are some other use cases to extend within your environment. CAPI Gateway also has the ability to create entitlements, generating and maintaining API keys, social hooks for SSO, token services, including JOT tokens, OAuth, two-legged and three-legged, and OpenID Connect, as well as many other security integration and transformation practices. The gateway provides capabilities for enforcing SLA agreements and has the ability to throttle and prioritize APIs based on several factors. It also provides protection against known threats like DDoS, SQL injection, as well as a slew of others. It has the ability to validate incoming messages via Swagger Doc, Waddle, or you can create your own validation using the policy language. And a solution that works together with the gateway is the CAPI portal, which provides the ability for you to tightly manage developer access to the enterprise APIs. These capabilities include developer enrollment, API plans, and API Explorer, API documentation, quota control, rankings, and analytics. It also helps with the life cycle of your APIs. The Live API Creator. CA Live API Creator enables business users to create APIs from legacy and modern data sources through automation and business logic enforcement. It also addresses requirements for rapid development of APIs, providing a point-and-click exposure of REST APIs integrating SQL, NoSQL, and external APIs resources. It also provides custom API combining multiple data sources with uniform business logic. Also, Live API Creator has a very granular control and access where API is secured to the row and column lookup. On this slide, I wanted to showcase that CA is not the only one talking about API management. CA API management as the leader. We have many analyst reports that highlight specific requirements within the API management, and one such is the API Gateway Security highlighted here on the slide from Compinger Leadership Compass. They have stated us as the leader in the space, as well as many other Analyst Reports from Gartner and Forrester also situate CA as the leader for API management and the full end-to-end lifecycle for API architecture. Now, let's shift focus a little bit and talk through what are some of the main challenges that the enterprise could come up against. The challenge for most companies today are creating agility and competitive advantages by pragmatically moving their primarily on-premise infrastructure to the cloud in phases, as well as building out new tools across multiple cloud vendors. As businesses become aware very quickly is the need for seamless integration across all cloud vendors. This does become a challenge to maintain with evolving landscapes. Some challenges are integrating multiple data sources within each environment is tough to manage, especially when it comes to doing this seamlessly and presenting this to an omni-channel presence. Taking systems and allowing them access via mobile or IoT clients is a tough task without several aspects to worry about. Authorization. Ease of developer access to applications. Security for app access. Single sign-on across multiple applications. Maintaining an MQT broker for each environment can become costly, and the security won't be standardized. Intelligent routing comes into play when back-end services aren't functioning the way they should, so having insight into this is crucial for the success and adoption of your applications. Security becomes a bigger concern when businesses open themselves up to multiple environments like this. Authorization across environments are crucial for not only security, but usability. This becomes the biggest roadblock for most businesses to have a standardized approach for allowing access to these environments. Another thought as well is the OWASP API threats become another major concern for businesses, as not all cloud providers protect the same way. Managing threats become a big concern when service levels start to become impacted because of back-end applications being bombarded with attacks. All businesses want to achieve visibility, control, security, governance, and compliance, all of which are paramount to your IT infrastructure. These become these become even more challenging as you layer on infrastructure, consisting of physical, virtual, cloud, and container environments. This slide highlights a standardized approach across all of the environments. CAPI Gateway can provide this approach to all of your cloud infrastructure. Within security and governance, CAPI Gateway provides authorization by integrating existing ADs or other IDM solutions for user access. Provided an enterprise OAuth 2.0 across all clouds. Token generation and management of those tokens. Embedding these tokens to create a job for backend service consumption. Within threat management, the gateway can protect against several attack vectors, DDoS attacks, SQL injection, XSS, and several others that fall within the OWASP spec. Within performance, really the help that is needed from the performance side of the fence is really to have the ability to cache aggregating responses, rate limiting, throughput quota rules enforcement, and multi-environment destination routing strategies based on your backend availabilities. This can all be provided by the gateway. Control. Under control is the ease of use for the gateway as a standardized rollout approach for all cloud environments. Build once and roll it out to all environments. Gateways can be spun up to meet the needs of incoming traffic, and also be brought down when the traffic subsides. Using multiple different types of CI/CD automations to make that happen. You should have the ability to build out new APIs on the fly to control access to newly established microservices or backend services, which the gateway has the ability to help create net new APIs and expose that to the public very quickly and headlessly. Visibility. Monitor client usage habits, know which APIs are successful, and have the ability to have good gauge on how the API is performing for clients. All these different types of capabilities are all available out of the box within the gateway. Now, when we talk about the feature and functions of the gateways that I just mentioned, we typically state that our gateways sit in the entry point into many different cloud environments. Here we have 4 different clouds, or potentially X number of clouds, but the ones I'm highlighting here, the AWS cloud, the Azure cloud, and the Google cloud, as well as other potential clouds like Alibaba and so forth. We would actually be the entry point of each one of these environments, and that you can see that there's a CA API gateway stood up inside each one of the cloud environments. This is a typical development practice or a typical scenario when a client wants to require access to an API. First off, each one of these environments has the threat management capability already built into each one of the gateways. The control and visibility are also built into the gateways, as well as the authorization and security components are all sort of blended inside the gateway. First off, the setup of the gateway has 2 different endpoints that are being exposed to the client for the OAuth 2.0 consumption, OAuth 2.0 environment, and the ability to have the authorization endpoint and token endpoint exposed to our client, which in this case is just a REST client, and then having the ability to gain access to an access token via the user authentication mechanism to an Active Directory or the Azure AD, or whatever IAM solution that you're wanting to use to authorize a specific use case. And within that, we do have SSO capabilities. The single sign-on across multiple cloud environments are going to be used in this regard. So now, once I've gained access to an access token, I am able to hit the specific API called Test for API within the AWS cloud. And once I have access to the access token, I can then go ahead and hit the next, and go ahead and hit all 3 other cloud providers using that same access token. So within this slide, I showed the potential of using our gateway as the entry point into each cloud environment. It also has the ability to have authorization in one cloud vendor and the ability to reuse the access token across the cloud, the other cloud vendors, providing a single sign-on configuration. Each threat can be mitigated by the same approach within each cloud vendor using our gateway at the entry point, so it doesn't go to the back-end application. Providing a standardized approach for routes that are taking too long or troubled backends can be handled by the same routing strategies across all vendors. With this, the CAPI Management Suite can help provide a secure, standardized approach to the omni-channel. I will now hand it back to the iSOA group to discuss a specific use case. So, Brian, please take it away.
Derek, thank you very much. That was very informative, and I think understanding all the opportunity around multi-cloud and the CA solution is great. Now, Venkata Chintala from our team will talk about specific scenarios and use cases around Microsoft products and environments. Venkata, take it away.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Venkata Chintala. I'm a Senior Solutions Architect, API Management, working for iSOA Group. So you already saw a presentation from Derek. He went through the API Gateway features and the capabilities in the API management space. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the different scenarios specific to Microsoft products. So as you know, CA API gateways are power-packed with a lot of features, and most of the features are underlooked by many customers. So the idea of this webinar is to provide customer awareness and to leverage the rest of the features in the gateway and get the most out of the gateways to get the total cost of ownership and return on investment. Today, I'm going to cover the following Microsoft products. One is Microsoft Certificate Services. I believe everybody knows what Microsoft Services, but I will go through each of the services and explain briefly. And also, I'm going to cover Microsoft Active Directory integration, and I'll be explaining SharePoint integration and ASP.NET applications on IIS. And Windows Communication Foundation, it is a SOAP-based service. And Microsoft Azure App Services, this is a platform as a service provided by Microsoft in Azure. And also I'm going to cover Microsoft Azure IoT and Events Hub. So these are the topics of the day. I wanted to walk you through the different scenarios. So if you look at the diagram, this is the overall integration diagram with a landscape where these products fit and integrate with CA API gateways. CA API gateways are the entry point at the edge of the network or within your enterprise as an ESB. So depending on the customer scenarios, they can leverage in different ways. So in this case, I'm explaining at the edge scenario where gateways will act as a security enforcement point and the internet proxy services. So if you look at the diagram, you see the certificate services on the bottom, and the Active Directory and Microsoft SharePoint services, Microsoft IIS, which is primarily ASP.NET based, or some customers use a Tomcat or any other add-on products, and they all can be integrated with CA API gateways and Azure App Services. And in addition to that, Microsoft Azure has a Azure Log Analytics and the Azure Security Center where CA API gateways can send these logs and for auditing and monitoring. On the left, you have different device types that users access. Typically, when you access your application, you open a browser, you launch your application, and then sign into the app and then continue doing your work. And also on the mobile devices, you have mobile applications that are built on iOS or on Android or Windows phones. They all work together with CA API gateways to access APIs or web applications. And also you have a MDM services that are leveraged to device enrollment. So why do you want to have a device enrollment? I will walk you through the next slides and explain one by one. So let's focus on the Microsoft Certificate Services first, because I believe this is the foundation of establishing an enterprise trust. Typically in an enterprise, you have your laptops, mobile devices that are issued by an enterprise. That means these computers are managed and controlled by different security policies of an enterprise. And also, these enterprises allow you to access these applications on your personal devices or any third-party devices. There are scenarios where you actually have the security policies to allow access on a specific devices. So the way you can control the type of device is by using a Microsoft Certificate Services enrollment. What customers do, they use either Good Enterprise or Mobile Iron or Microsoft Intune to register their devices into the enterprise. So when they register, these devices will have a certificate that is signed by the corporate Microsoft CA services. So this is where the Microsoft services, certificate services plays a big role in protecting your device. So why do you want to protect the device? Basically to do a data loss prevention. Assume that you're working at a customer site on an engagement and you're dealing with very sensitive information. And when you go to customer service, customer site, you cannot join to your network on your laptop. Either you can do a VPN and that has a latency, especially if you travel internationally. So the best way to address this type of scenario is to use a trusted device that is enrolled using Microsoft Certificate Services that provides a full protection to your data, and tampering is not allowed. So access and process sensitive data on trusted devices and risk-based authentication and authorization. So depending on the location or depending on the type of device, you can enforce different authorization controls to access specific application. And you have a greater visibility in terms of who is accessing and from where they are accessing to provide a full security auditing. And how CA API gateways support certificate services. So if you enforce a mutual TLS on the gateway, the device that is communicating with the gateway is going to present the certificate that is issued by Microsoft CA, certificate authority, and then present it to the gateway. The gateway will validate the certificate, and also it will verify the revocation check. For example, if you want to unenroll the device and to block access to a specific user, you can do that. So gateway will validate, make sure that particular device is not allowed accessing that particular application. And in addition to that, the CA API gateways can perform additional authentication factors based on the risk. If you're accessing your app from US, you're okay to access. You don't need a second factor authentication. But if you're going to some other country where it's a potential risk, you want to enforce additional authentication factor. Typically in those locations, you may not be able to use Windows authentication, but you can enforce a dual factor authentication, for example, RSA or any third-party authenticator providers. And gateways will do auditing sensitive data access, and then they send it to a remote security monitoring solution that can alert of any suspicious activity of the application. The next comes Microsoft Active Directory domain services. If you know, the most customers, they use Microsoft Active Directory as their identity provider. And then in addition to that, they leverage other third-party single sign-on solutions. For example, CA single sign-on or IBM or many other, or Oracle. They all can be integrated with Microsoft Active Directory, and Microsoft Active Directory can easily work with CA API gateways. So using Microsoft Windows Active Directory, you can enforce Windows integrated authentication where you don't need to ask for any username and password. This works especially when the user joins to a domain by connecting to the corporate network or to a VPN. But there are scenarios where that may not be possible. In those cases, you can still use forms-based authentication so that you can authenticate user ID and password with Windows Active Directory using LDAP. The Microsoft AD supports a single sign-on, and also it can integrate with the ADFS for federated single sign-on. If you want to integrate your app with a third-party identity providers, you can use ADFS to seamlessly provide access to your application. So why you need to use Microsoft Active Directory? For centralized user account management, Single sign-on using Windows integrated authentication. It makes user life easier. No need to enter username and password every time they access application. And the role-based access control. You can create Windows security groups and then add users to the groups who need access to a specific application. And principles of least privileges. Because you are applying a role-based access control, the people will have access to the application they need, and the rest of the access is prevented. And you can revoke user privileges anytime, either by disabling the account or by removing the account from Active Directory when the user leaves the organization, or when the user no longer access to the application. So how CA API gateways help integrating? CA API gateway has a built-in feature to support Windows integrated authentication. Just like any other IAS services, you can enforce Windows integrated authentication and then provide single sign-on to access the web application or APIs, whichever you take. And also it supports forms-based authentication in the form of taking username and password and bind to an LDAP. And the CA API gateways can enforce account control, a role-based access control based on the user group the user belongs to, either grant or deny access. So one of the greatest feature in Microsoft, CA API gateways is a constraint delegation. So one of the features that is overlooked by many customers. It has a lot of potentials, but it has its own complexities. But it is a powerful feature that is provided by CA API gateways. I will go through the constraint delegation a little bit more when I go to the SharePoint services. SharePoint services tightly integrates with Windows Active Directory and uses constraint delegation. So what is a Microsoft SharePoint services? So Microsoft SharePoint service is a leading collaboration and document management system that is used by many Microsoft customers, and it is heavily used. The SharePoint has a support on-prem and infrastructure as a service in Azure, and also it has an Office 365 offering. And the SharePoint services provide a fine-grained access control at an individual site, sub-site, or resource level that are fully managed within the Microsoft SharePoint services. So many customers use SharePoint services for client and team collaboration. Sometimes they use for project management, and there are out-of-the-box templates. You can simply create a site, and you're spinning up site within no time, within 5 to 10 minutes. And application customization. So if you want to write your own application and that is built on top of a SharePoint, you can use SharePoint as an application platform and then deploy your apps and then integrate with the CA API gateways. And SharePoint services support Windows integrated authentication and then integrates easily with tightly with domain controllers. How do CA API gateways support? CA API gateway support Windows integrated authentication, and also does a forms-based authentication. Depending on the location of the user accessing the application, you can enforce the type of authentication on the fly by evaluating at runtime. And it can apply a role-based access control based on the site, subsite, or individual user roles. And it does perform verbose delegation. Say, for example, a data owner who can only view or change the data, and nobody else can change the data. By using a verbose constraint delegation, we are making sure that only that user is having access to the specific data, and everything is fully audited, and you can do an audit trail on who is accessing that sensitive data and when, and what are they doing. In addition to that, the CA API gateways can enforce a SQL injection over as top 10 threat protection. Because you're using a SharePoint services, this is a web application, and when you're exposing over the internet, you have to make sure you control all the threat protection and everything is secure. So gateways will help you do that and implement for Microsoft SharePoint services. So the next comes Microsoft Azure App Services. This is fairly new. So advantage of Microsoft App Services is it is fully managed by Microsoft, and you don't need to worry about managing the virtual machines and updating the patches. All you need to do is just focus on writing your code and then deploy into Microsoft App Services, and then your application is running in no time. And Microsoft takes care of auto scaling. If you need more throughput, you can define your auto scaling properties, and Microsoft will automatically do the scaling and scale out and the scale in depending on the traffic demand. And it supports a variety of programming language support, for example, .NET, C++, and including Java and Python and many others. And you can deploy both web applications and microservices. With API management, web applications are overlooked, and the gateways are capable of protecting web applications and also the SOAP services. So why app services? You just want the business apps, not the infrastructure, and again lift and shift existing applications and then deploy into Azure, and then you can build applications to scale, and it supports a Microsoft, it's a microservices architecture. The gateways can leverage to support single sign-on and the WebAS top 10 security threat protections and role-based access control. And it also supports WAUth APIs to protect the microservices. So this is a major advantage when you go to the Microsoft, microservices architecture. You can leverage the built-in WAUth capabilities of the gateway and then protect APIs. And you can create repeatable policy templates and then can enforce security on the gateways. When you use Microsoft Azure App Services, there are many apps you can deploy, but you don't need to write policy for every single app you deploy. Rather, you simply create a policy template and then apply across multiple app services that share the similar security policies. The next comes the Microsoft Azure IoT and Events Hub. Microsoft Azure IoT is for integrating your manufacturing device sensors, home security and automation, health and medical devices, automobile diagnostic sensor, and many more. So today, everybody have some kind of devices. For example, we have Amazon Alexa, Google Home, or many other, or your home security system, or maybe your thermostat. You can control all this device access at the edge by deploying the gateways and then secure it. So why IoT? Increasing the productivity. Basically, you can monitor these sensors and then make sure they're performing well and they meet the customer demands. And you can send these events to a log analytics or to a artificial intelligence system to analyze and then provide feedback for a better customer experience and efficient monitoring and tracking of the devices. And if you want to have your car and if you want to do preventive maintenance, your car controls can send real-time data to the car dealer or to the manufacturer, and they can check for any diagnostics and then provide some feedback. And in addition to that, there are so many other benefits of using IoT. So how do gateways play a role in terms of supporting Microsoft Azure IoT devices and Events Hub? The gateways help securing communication between the device and the backend application services using mutual TLS. Of course, mutual TLS is for the high secure devices. At certain times, you can use a different type of authentication and authorization. For example, OAuth APIs for API security, and MQTT for message communication between the IoT device and the backend services by using CA API gateways. So that's all, and they are the scenarios I wanted to cover this today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to iSOA group at the provided contact information. Now I'm handing over to Brian Silverman, moderator. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Venkata. That was very informative. You know, when you think about Derek's presentation about all the capabilities of the CA solutions around API management and gateways, and then your discussion around the Microsoft use cases and the opportunity, it's easy to see why companies would want to leverage the CA solution and consultants such as yourself to help them improve their deployment and their security. At this time, if there are any questions, if anyone wants to raise their hand or ask a question, we have time for a few, and I don't see any in the chat window. So, anybody? Well, okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Hope everybody has a great day. And Cheryl wants me to go back to the thank you slide, so you can all, if you have any, would like to get back. Sorry about that. And everyone have a great day, and thank you very much.